How are you doing? I'm Jeff. I'm a director of a technology DevOps team. Like many of you, I love STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. I'm passionate to see how technology evolves the world. Who wouldn't agree that technology is the foundation of the modern life? The way we communicate, 1 gig internet already become norm for a regular consumer. 5G already launched with mobile communication. The way we live, home automation, the Internet of Things is shaping our daily life. And the way we use mobile apps, how many apps in your smartphones, and you use Uber to find a ride, you use mobile apps to find the favorite foods and deliver at your door. We are the believer of the technology, but sometimes we would forget it's equally important and arguably probably even more important as how you turn a technology into a product and hit a market. Let me just post my slide. All right. This lecture is not for the marketing students. This is for the future scientists and engineers to build some basic concepts of the productization. When you start your career in a technology company, hopefully you will know who is doing what in the company, and hopefully you will see some opportunities when you're going along. A bit introduction of myself. I work for TELUS. I'm a director in the tech strategy department in TELUS. My team looking after the existing service, how to improve the reliability, the resiliency, but also we develop the new services on the mobile side. I came to Canada in late 1999. I started in network engineering, as you can see, in early 2000. I was really fortunate in my career to be able to switch among very different functions, from the product development to product management, from strategy, budget planning to marketing and the sales. And about 10 years ago, I returned back to the technology development, the architecture, the technology, all the hardcore about the technical, about the networking, about the technology. And I have seen the technology in very different angles after all my career with the marketing, the sales, and the products. Most of my career has been spent in TELUS and Rogers. More or less, I involved in IPTV, 1 gig internet over GPON or DOCSIS, LTE, voice over LTE, 5G launches, and some of the home automation and enterprise and carrier solutions. Love what I'm doing. And I love working with people, deliver on our commitment, innovate wherever we smell an opportunity. Why working with people? Because there's always a feel and emotion get involved. You know, it doesn't matter if it's winning or losing, it's always a fun. It's just beyond the 0 and 1 in the system, right? Also, I'm very proud I'm a UofT alumnus as well. First, let's look at what is a technology product. I like to use an example. Thinking of a mobile phone service, your cell phone. So in order to make it work, for sure, you need some network infrastructure. But you also have to consider other things around the infrastructure, around the network components, the capacity, the performance. When there's something wrong, how you fix it. So these are other areas. It's just to support the infrastructure, support the solution as a technology, as a part of the technology. But also, it's important to know there's identity. You know, this is how you put the service to the people. What is identity? I'm sure many of you already know, you know, in the mobile world, we talk a lot of single sign-on, zero sign-on, so the people can have the seamless experience without even put the username password in a secure manner. It's a lot of privacy as well. There's a lot of privacy concerns these days. as long as you get into internet, it's almost like everything's shared. But how can we just offer the minimum necessary information when you sign up a service? You're not giving every information out. It's almost like on demand and to the minimum in a secure way. So that's all part of the identity consideration. You need to provision the service to the subscriber. You have to run billing, otherwise you wouldn't be able to get revenue. And in order to understand if you're running well or not well, you have to enable a lot of reporting. Those reporting, not just network. A lot of that is how you run your business. Is the product healthy, growing the revenue, or there on the other side is actually shrinking? You probably should consider to do something, right? So it's a part of the reporting. You also need to consider service. First, it's a basic service. Mobile phone service is a basic service. You have data service, you have the voice service. Those will be considered as a basic. You have to get the phone in order to, download a file, watch a YouTube, but also talk to a friend who has a phone number. But on the other side, we also offer additional features. For example, today, we actually consider 5G as a feature. Yes, 5G is access technology, but you're not paying, like for the consumer today who get on the 5G service, they're not really paying additional fee for 5G. So 5G is really a feature when you see that 5G logo on your phone. Another example, we offer something called call control in TELUS. What call control is a help the spam call. When someone calling you, they will be automatically being prompted to press the key, 0, 1, a random key. If he press the wrong key, the call is not going to go through. So this is to help filter out a lot of robotic calls, spam calls. It's called call control. It's a free feature that TELUS offers. What is a value-added service? Value-add usually is an independent service on its own, but we can combine with the basic service to offer to our customer. Think about voicemail, even visual voicemail. Tethering actually become more and more a value-added service these days. Originally, tethering is really, as long as you got a phone, you can always, turn it into a hotspot to share with your friends. But because now we have a lot of unlimited data services, we have to make sure not everybody using that unlimited data with everybody he knows. So that's the reason tethering also become a service. We can add it on your basic service. Service bundle is if you are a customer, existing customer, in order to add additional services, usually will be some discount being offered to help create that service bundle. It's a help to increase some of the stickiness with the service provider. For sure, you have to consider the pricing. It's actually quite interesting with the pricing. Pricing traditionally is really just looking at the cost, looking at the return period, and then you will automatically get a price. But today is not that easy always, because the fair cost-based price is not necessarily a fair market price. There's a term called a loss leader. It means, if you are new in the market or you're competing in the market in a hyper competitive environment, you don't expect to get all the investment back in like a year or 2 years. You sometimes will even sell under the cost in order to gain the subscriber, in order to grow the market. And sometimes you are trying to sell other services on top of it to get revenue, to get the profit. But the basic service could be under the cost. Package. Think about your data service. You can sign up for 1 gig, 2 gig, 10 gig with different pricing. It's called a package. And you can add it, for the voice calls, entire Canada free, North American free, or even select the international destination free. That can all be included into the package. Hardware is one thing. Usually people would underestimate how big it is. In the mobile world or in the mobile phone service, customer hardware is really talking about our phones, our devices. Just give a rough idea. Let's just assume the average device price is $500. I mean, for sure, if you sign up 2 years, you pay much less. But because your monthly fee already include some of the device cost, generally let's consider $500 as an average device cost. And usually we see the customer like 2 to 3 years to change the device. So every year for a company have 10 million subscribers, you can probably think 2 to 3 million customers are changing the device, and each of them is $500. That is almost like $1.5 billion a year. It's not really helping the bottom line, but it helped the top line a lot. So we usually refer the bottom line as a profit and the top line as revenue. Sometimes you want to build up your revenue even at a very, very low margin, but sometimes you want to have the high margin business. Revenue may not be that important, but in this case, we help the revenue, may not help the profit that much. Accessories. I think I mentioned earlier, sometimes you have to, sell at a loss leader in order for the people to, to subscribe with your service. But on the other side, when they come in, when they are buying the phones, they sometimes will buy the accessory at the same time. Sure, maybe going to another store is going to save a few bucks here and there, but that convenience, because when they purchase a phone in the, at the counter or over the internet, they can do some accessory shopping to make sure the time they receive the phone, they will receive all the accessories. That's such a convenient and a fun thing for many of the buyers. Now let's talk about how you can reach the customer. You have a good product, you have a pricing package you can sell to the customer, you know how to build it, but you still need a sales channel in order to reach the customer. So in a typical mobile phone service, those channels are retail stores. You have seen the Teller store, the Rogers store, even Kudo store in the malls, and sometimes they have a standalone shops, the retail stores. We also leverage direct sales. Direct sales means when customer calling in, or we directly calling in the customer to offer some of the promotions. Our people will be doing that. But we also leverage a lot of dealers, because think about some of the dealers you have seen, right? Best Buy is one of the dealer for Rogers, for Tellers, for Bell. You go to Best Buy, you can start buying all kinds of packages in the phone from there. They are the dealers. You can also leverage the online digital. This has actually become more and more important these days. The online digital is really getting a lot of attention. This is how you can reach your customer in very surgical way. If you need to reach younger generation of the customers, you find the online digital channel to reach the younger generation. If you want to reach to the mature customer or the baby boomers, you have the specific way to reach them, which might not be online digital, but there's some special online digital channel can reach those different segments as well. Branding help a lot with your product. Today, there are lots of different mobile services that you can buy in the market, but many people still go to the top three, which is Telus, Bell, and Rogers, because the branding had taken years to build up. When they look at the branding, there's a message behind it. From time to time, we do promotions to help people buying it. Like Boxing Day used to be the biggest, and this year's the Black Friday actually is gaining more momentum than the Boxing Days. We do a lot of promotion in those days. Communication, how we can leverage all kinds of channels to communicate to the customers. We also have the loyalty program. Many of not just mobile phone service. You probably see more and more those like points card. You sign up some service, you get points card. More you buy, more points you gain, and more saving you can make. So think about a simple mobile phone. The phone itself and the network behind it is only a small part of it. Everything else is what we do to make it happen. And don't forget, at the end of the day, you still have to build the customer. You can do the billing, but you still have to send the invoice to the customer and collect their payment. Sometimes the customer will run into a problem. They will still prefer to talk to the people. They will have to call in. You have the customer care agent to help them. And you also have the field operation. Whenever they run into a problem in the field, you can help them, right? This is especially with the wireline services, it's happening a lot. All that is making a simple mobile phone service works. Here is just some of the names, as if you are in a company or in a operator like Bell, Rogers, and Telus. What are usually the name of the department? Technology team usually will look after the infrastructure and all the technology. BSS is the business support system. So they usually is the billing, the provisioning, and all the systems. We have the product team who look after what is the pricing, what is strategy, how we can create the product, put them together and make sense to the customer. You have a sales who looking into as what will be the most effective way to reach the customer and make sure they know what we're offering and trying to get the product into their hand. And you have marketing looking after the branding, the promotion, communication, loyalty program, and anything to help create a better communication with the customer in the market. And you have the customer experience, who is actually increasingly important these days as how you can improve the customer experience for a product. Now let's dive into a little bit of depth of the product and marketing. What is a product and marketing? Product, it's something you can offer to satisfy a customer's want or need. The market generally is a system, the social relationship, the procedures that the buyer and the seller can meet each other. They exchange. So usually it's a seller to give the goods or the service in exchange the money from the buyers. The market have different segments. Like one way to look at the segment is the consumer market is very different than the enterprise market. And usually those segments will determine organizational structure in a technology company, because the approach, even the tools to help reach those different customers are quite different. If you look at the consumer market, TV service, YouTube, Amazon, some of the online services are all good for the consumer, not necessarily good for the enterprise. But when enterprise customer comes in, the channel usually is through some of the professional association, the references, or some existing channel. For example, if you already sell enterprise customer with your internet access service, you probably can easily sell the security solution on top of it. So those are very different approach and channels to reach consumer and enterprise customers. Generally, for the product, you need to have a product strategy. It could be a single product. It could be a group of a product for the company. Like, for example, Telus is a telecom company, right? We sell the telecommunication services to the customer, and we sell all the IoT services to the verticals. But you know what? It probably wouldn't expect us to sell food, the drinks, the groceries, right? But you never know. Like, we are pretty strong in the e-health. Maybe one day we'll start selling the health product because the e-health engagement. But that's about it, right? Well, not everything we sell is going to make sense from one to the other under the Telus brand. There are some of the business, before even you start having the product, you have to consider the business case. Business case is really a story as how you define, how you scope, the cost, and estimate the revenue with addressable market. So this is put everything together to make sense of it. So you can sell your idea in order for the investors to support your product. This investor could be, internally in the company, capital investment committee who choose which product to support, which product to reject. Or it could be a venture capital. If you're a brand new startup, you're trying to get into a market, you're trying to get some investment from the external, then you have to sell a story as to why you have a good business case for them to invest. I remember back in probably like 2001, there's some of you may still remember, it's called .com bubble burst. So it was that's a time it be considered the best time to get investment. Why? As long as you have your domain somehow associated with the .com between 1995 to probably around 2000, more specifically maybe like a March 2000. The reason I remember that is that's actually the time I started my first job in Canada. Around that 5 years, NASDAQ index actually rose about 400%. It only takes 2 years to fall 78%, to give back all the gains they have gained. That's what it's called bubble burst. What happened is the internet, the way we use the internet, and also the personal computer at the time had been booming up. They created a tons of opportunity over the internet. Everybody look at the future as .com, telecom, IT. The venture capitals, who are the investors in the market, who are really eager to give money as long as they see there's a story towards the future. You can debate it's healthy, it's not healthy, as eventually created a crash in the market. But everybody is not about to gain the revenue, but to build up your customer base, so they can get the IPO opportunity, which is the initial public offering. Basically, your company go public, right? So in that case, by selling the stock, you can gain a lot of money to help your cash flow in the company. So all the company has been trying to do the IPO instead of build up a sound business model. So what happened is 5 years, great growth. So easy to, as long as you have a good business case or okay business case related to .com, you're guaranteed to get investment, but it wasn't that healthy. So eventually the bubble burst happens, the stock market crashed, and also a lot of new tech company, because they cannot get continue the investment in, they have to fold. It was a pretty ugly time, starting from 2001 into 2002. I would say probably like last about 2-3 years. Other things you have to consider on the product side, user experience. When you create a value to the user, you have to consider the use case or the user journey as the process for the people to use your service, the flow they have to go through. Everybody knows Apple. It's a great company, love it. But back in 1996, Apple almost went bankruptcy. It was a time Windows 95 from Microsoft launched. They almost killed Macs. Back then, Apple is still a personal PC, a personal computer company. They sell Macs. If you remember the earliest computer, there's I think it's called Apple II. It had been a great computer in the very early stage, and the Mac has been a brand in the market competing with the PC, the Microsoft Windows for longest time. But in 1996, it almost bankrupt because it just had been focusing on the wrong thing. And Steve Jobs, if you have heard that name, he's the founder of the Apple. He left Apple for almost 10 years, but he came back in 1997. At the time, Apple is just a minor player in the market. But when Steve come back, he was changing the product strategy. For people who are using Apple today, you probably, what is the best thing of the Apple you ever think, right? Sure, there's like a fine toys, but on the other side, did you notice Apple make everything super simple? So their branding has been, Apple makes technology so simple that everyone can be part of it. Everyone can be part of the future. Think about it. Even today, it's still true. iPhone, probably the simplest phone. In terms of you want to open the app, using the app, browse from the one system, from one app to the other app. Apple has been pretty simple. I mean, arguably, like I'm actually an Android guy. I use Android phone all the time, either Google or Samsung. But I have to admit, Apple customer experience is pretty good. They make everything simple. Think about other things that Apple offer. Apple Watch, their earbuds, even their music streaming service, everything what they are trying to be is trying to be simple. They set a vision, they invest, and they stay focused. Apple is such a huge company, but if you really look at what they offer, it's not that many products they're offering. But they're doing a couple of things that are doing really, really well. First, they're trying to transform the leading edge technology into the accessible consumer technology to make it simple. Back then, when there's about 2005, 2006, Mac actually they started attacking Microsoft. I still remember even today, the commercial back then. There's a Mac guy, there's a PC guy, and the PC guy is well-dressed, but kind of interesting. And the Mac guy is young, is energetic, and basically trying, I can offer whatever you like. The flexibility, the simpleness. So that commercial has been one of the most famous commercial even today. I'm sure you can easily find it, just a Mac versus PC 2005, and see if you can find that commercial from YouTube. It's quite fun. Apple not necessarily always been the first in the market. They try to follow a breakthrough market. They being the fast follower, but they make it simple. They make it extremely well that nobody can compete with them on the customer experience. Think about the desktop, the laptop, the smartphone, which is iPhone, Apple Watch, iPad, even TV and music. They all falling into that category, like AirPods. They build a consumer ecosystem. There's a loyal customer base. It doesn't matter what Apple is offering, will always be the first to try it. This is a loyalty from the customer base. This is the ecosystem they already maintain. And within that ecosystem, they can building up a lot of new system, new tools, and new products. Think about the Apple revenue. They started about $5.7 billion in 2005. And this grew into $240 billion. Sorry, did I say 5.7 billion in 2005 and grow into 240 billion in 2015 in just 10 years, 5.7 to 240. Today, they are still roughly in the similar range. I look at their 2020 revenue is at the 275 billion. But out of that, the 275 billion, 38% are the gross margin. Their profit, their gross margin is the top notch in the class. They had the best of the quarter in Q4 2020. So the quarter finished December 31st. They reached 111 billion just in one single quarter with a 40% of gross margin. Apple also being very famous with their roadmap. Every year, there's a consumer-friendly technology launch. And they make the Apple Day is the biggest industry event ever. They always go into the new market, trying to see wherever the emerging market is. Their communication never shy from attacking the competitors. Like back then, it's a PC, it's a Windows. They're trying to highlight some of the flaws other system has. Their slogan is, if you're frustrated with Windows, come to Mac. Now let's take a look at marketing. Marketing is generally how you reach the market and the target customer and communicate with them. The traditional marketing covers the pricing, the place, where's your market, and the promotions on top of your products. It evolves how you understand the market, and sometimes you have to segment the market to apply the different marketing strategy and find the most reliable and effective way to reach to your customers. The three Canadian telecom companies, or called telecom operators, Rogers, Bell, and Telus, they all have a different branding to look after their customer segments. For example, Telus. We have the brand Telus, the brand Kudo, and the brand of Public Mobile. They are looking after different customer segments. We apply different customer care for each of the brand. For example, Telus, we call it the full touch. The full touch means you have the in-store experience to buy the device, to buy the package. And when you activate the service, you have a question, you want to talk to someone, there's always someone there for you can talk to. Where Kudo, it makes the experience. Most of the transaction is done by online, but you can always talk to someone if you have to. Public mobile is almost 100% is through the internet. It's all online transaction. You have questions, you find the answers online as well. They target very different market segments. Public mobile generally is for the younger generation who prefer not to talk to someone in order to get a service. They like to finish all the transaction online by themselves. We also have very different sales channels or different distribution system for each of the brand. On the branding side, which is also a major part of the marketing, is how you can increase your branding awareness in the market. You have the business. TELUS doing that by constantly increase our social responsibility. For example, TELUS have a set of the programs as how we can help the people who are young adults who just left the foster care, how we can help the disabled people, how we can help the homeless people have the better access to the health system. All those programs is to helping the awareness of the TELUS, but also we increase the social responsibility for good purpose. Marketing analysis is the other major part of the marketing exercise. We sometimes refer to 5 C's: company, collaboration, customer, competitor, and climate. Collaboration involves your partner, your investor, your supplier, where climate usually talking about the marketing environment, that's where you're in. This is beyond how you promote your product. Why the marketing analysis is important? This is to understand the general, the market dynamics. Understand, are you in a growing market? Are you in a shrinking market? How about the competition in the market? Is this a super hyper competition already going on, or you're the first mover in the market? Based on the different situation, you can apply the different marketing strategy as how you push your product to the customers. Data analytics and KPIs are very powerful tools as how you can connect to your customer and understand their behavior and understand their feedbacks. The IPTV market, probably since 10 years ago, they have been heavily leveraged. It's called friendly user trials. Whenever they have a new service ready to roll out, the first step is to find a selected customers, called a trial base, and they roll out the service to this group of the customers, either by offering some kind of a discount or just by promoting this is a brand new service and you have the privilege to be the first one to try it. And people love it. People would love to try it and provide their feedback. And based on that, this is not a commercial product yet. So the company like Comcast in this case, they still have the chance to further improve the performance of the products before it really becomes a final. One example, in the IPTV world, it's important as how people find the content. There's a very fancy user interface, there's fancy guide, but at the end of the day, the people need to find the content to watch. The number of the clicks, the average number of the clicks for the people to find the right content is something you can track. You can, based on the friendly user trial, by doing the data analytics, you can actually track the average number of the clicks people need to perform before they can reach the right content. And this data have been helping the efficiency of the user interface for IPTV service. Digital marketing. Digital marketing is referring to the advertising and the communication delivered through the digital channels. The digital channels including but not limited to search engines, the websites, social medias, Sometimes it could be the email campaign. And also more and more these days, there's mobile apps. They can add ads on top of it. It helps the product, but it could also help the branding. Some of the digital marketing, for example, pay-per-click ads. You partner with someone who is already running their social media, and they're trying to push your content, your product information to the customer, but you only pay when there's a real customer click on it to check into, and you pay for it. It's called pay-per-click. So the digital marketing really provide a surgical approach as how you reach the customer, and you can adjust and optimize the digital assets, fail fast. If one way not working well, you can stop it and change something else very quickly. The feedback loops, along with the data analytics, is such an effective way for the customer responsiveness to come back and for you to build a strong relationship with your customer base. Now let's move into how you write a good business case. What is a business case? The business case is how you sell your ideas to either investor or could be the internal committee to prove on the project. This is where you can show why, the what, the who, and the how, and of course, including your high-level solution as what it's about. So put all that under the business case and make sense of it. Look at the slogan on the left. I love this. Beth Comstock is, I believe she was a vice chairman of GE. You have to tell a story before you can sell a story. The business case is about to sell your story, but you need to have the capability to tell a story. Usually you follow some kind of a structure. Here are the 7 components. You don't have to follow the 7 components. Feel free to add yours if you feel it can be a more powerful message in order to sell your business case. But generally, those 7 are fairly effective. It started with problem statement. What's the reason and impact for your solution to have? Are you trying to address the problem, or are you trying to open a brand new opportunity? What market you're trying to address, and how timely you can address it? What kind of a size of the market is? The benefits, the cost estimation. This is talking about the revenue, the cost over a period of time. How much you expect to get out of this service and product? Risk assessment. Sometimes it's very hard to tell or to quantify a risk in the future. So very often we use scenario analysis. Scenario analysis, basically, you call out what's the best case scenario and what is the worst case scenario. And you're basically saying most likely the reality going to be something falling in between. Not the best, but not the worst. Coming to the solution, keep in mind your audience usually don't have the same level of knowledge as you do. So you probably want using very plain language to explain your complicated solution. Usually stay at a high level, stay at architecture level, it helps. The timeline and the dependencies. You have to tell, here are the project plan, and here's the dependency need to happen first in order for the product get to the launch point. But keep in mind, when you talk about solution and implementation, you sometimes can involve multiple options. The option analysis is a powerful tool for you to show why your recommended option, your recommended approach is the best approach. Give an example. You can leverage the option analysis, compare an in-house development with a purchasing off the shelf from the product. You can compare the pros and the cons, looking at how quickly you can pay back, or how long will it take you to go to market, and eventually give you a recommendation based on the risk and based on the demand. If you have no time to roll something out to the market right away, usually you have to buy it from the market at a higher price. But if you do have time, or you do want to have some customization added to it, most likely you can probably leverage the in-house development. Return on investment. You usually end it with a return on investment model. This is the financials showing your business case. This generally is the revenue and the cost over a period of time. We generally use 5 years to show what is today's value for this investment and for the future revenue. Keep in mind, all the future money have a lower value today. Or on the other side, today's money has a higher value in the future. Why? Because inflation, because the investment. If you have $10 today, you use that for the investment, or considering inflation, that $5 likely going to be higher than $5 towards the future, which also means if you have to make an investment for $5 2 years from now, that equivalent value today is less than $5. Okay. At the end, the ROI is to come back with a payback period. The payback period is the break-even point that the cost and the revenue is break-even. And after that, usually you will expect that the revenue get higher and the cost get lower, so your margin, your profit is going to come in. Get into an example of the a business case. Here is an example of the platform modernization. The reason I choose that is the platform modernization is actually sometimes hard to imagine a benefit. This is talking about an out-of-support platform that requires a hardware and software upgrade. So there's a cost occur, but the platform itself is really just a modernization. It doesn't really generate additional opportunity for the revenue because the service-wise, it still remains the same. When you come into the benefit, it can be a little bit creative. This is not really a benefit of the revenue, but a benefit of the reliability. If things went wrong, if you had an outage, how much loss you're going to incur? This is how you quantify the damage. You can use the direct damage if the service interruption going to be a day. So within that day, how much revenue going to get lost? But you can also talk about some indirect benefit. For example, the overall revenue is being supported, being protected. If you are supporting a huge $5 billion business, you probably don't want to have any risk running it. Then you will have to be extra careful as how you can address those reliability problems. The cost, the risk assessment. This is where you can start talking about the different scenarios. You can talk about the in-house development versus a vendor solution, as we talked on the previous slide. Where also on the solution side, you can give a very high-level software architecture at high-level infrastructure requirements, but don't get into too much details. In this particular example, we're seeing the implementation going to take 6 months to finish, and we have some integration dependency on either the space and power or whatever it is, just call it here. At the end, you finish with a return on investment. In this case, we're not going to get into the return on investment. There are tons of the models you can probably find out yourself over the internet. If you are interested, just type ROI model in a Google search. You'll find tons of the models you can grab easily. In this case, what we're doing is a 5-year cost breakdown. We're looking at the capital is on the software, on the hardware, and there's a labor cost because you need people to work on the project. And also there's a migration directly be part of the project. On the OpEx side, you have the recurring networking cost, the maintenance support, and you're probably running some virtualized infrastructure over 5 years. All that are the cost. Put them all together. We're looking at a DPP of 3.9 years. 3.9 years in telco world is not that strong, but this is a reliability initiative. It's okay. It's not that bad. So some of the tips as how you can make a good business case better or great. Always know the audience. Understand who is going to be your decision maker and who is going to be your decision influencer. And also understand those decision maker and decision influencer who might not have the knowledge as you do. They are probably more a generalist rather than a specialist. So you have to make your message very concise, but also don't get into too much of the details of the technology itself. Create a convincing story. Try to leverage the facts, the data points. Try not to use a lot of your personal judgment, opinion. I believe this is a very promising market. You can save it by just saying this market have a $3 billion potential based on this analysis. Build credibility, especially when you're going outside, when you're trying to get external funding support. You need to build credibility. There's multiple ways to do that. Number one, you can try to link your service or product or your proposal to something just happened in the past, who has been a successful story, and you're trying to leverage that, saying the approach, the service are very similar. We can take the similar approach and take the similar project team to invest to make it happen. And because the past project was successful, there's a good chance our project going to be successful too. Or especially for when you are a startup, you're trying to get money from the venture capital. Sometimes you can build the credibility by finding some senior guys in the industry to join your board. So you have the advisor from, ex-VP from a very high-profile company in the market. Everybody knows. Even better, everybody knows this is a figure in the industry. Whatever he say means something. That person, that name, going to help adding the credibility to your proposal. You want to invest something towards the future that have the repeatability. What repeatability means is the investment today can turn into something different but similar towards the future. So you're investing into a process, you build up a model, but this model can continue benefit other product and services towards the future. So the investors would love those ideas. Every piece of information when you offer into your business case, always ask yourself, does it help the overall story or they cause more confusion? For engineers and scientists like us, we always try to offer the details, but too much detail sometimes actually causes more confusion than the clarity. As long as you have a sound story, as long as you have a solid story to tell, save all the details. You don't have to mention all of them. But prepared for the questions. If the question comes in as more detailed answer required, you will have all the answers ready there. The other good tip is when you are trying to invest into a brand new product or service, trying to reduce the upfront cost. The reason is if you think about the payback period, it's the break-even point of your revenue, who usually is growing from the beginning towards the future, and your cost, which usually is high at the beginning and kind of stay flat going forward. So once you reach the point of the payback period, which is a break even of the revenue and the cost, after that is good profit. So you're trying to defer your upfront cost as much as possible in order to flatten your initial cost. So your break-even point can be reached much earlier and faster. You might not have the significant return as it used to be in the year 3, in the year 4, but by flattening that, you just get the payback, the break-even point much earlier. Now turning to a technology organization, knowing the business, knowing the product and the marketing, as we talked earlier, let's look at a typical organization structure for a technology company. For sure, there's a president, there's a CEO, there's a big boss there. But after that, the company usually is structured in the business, the technology, and the system. The business is all the marketing, the product, the sales, even the business planning and customer experience. Those are the different segments we talked earlier. They all under the business. This is the one to generate the revenue for the company. Then after that, you have the technology. Traditional way, there's technology development, planning, engineering to deploy, and operation to maintain, to operate. But nowadays, the development, the planning, engineering, and operation layer has been replaced more and more by what we call DevOps. So DevOps is in the lower layer, we create the development and operation together. So reliability by design, security by design, privacy by design. The time you develop your technology ideas, the products, you already consider how you operate it, how you deploy it all together in the agile approach. Very similarly, we have systems. Traditionally, this is called IT. This is a lot of development, the quality assurance, the operations for the system to support your product. Most likely is the BSS, the business support systems. On top of that, you have the corporate function. You need finance, you need human resource, communication, corporate affairs. Usually they help the branding. You certainly will need a legal department. The regulatory is how you understand the overall environment, all the regulations, policies, the specific laws and the rules you have to follow. And usually there's also a corporate development. This is to help the overall corporate to elevate in the market. Those are the common functions we usually referring as corporate functions. Interesting enough, sometimes those corporate functions also require the technology, require the very high technical skills there, like regulatory. Without understanding of the technology, it's very hard to understand the new policy, the pros and the cons, and how you defend the company, how you trying to push the regulatory body for the better benefit, for the better policy. This sometimes will require very high technical skills. So for the technical people, there are options or the functions under the corporate functions for you as well. Understand the technology organization is for you sometime to smell what are the opportunities are. So very quickly, most of the scientists and engineering, of course, is under the technology arm. This is a technology arm. I already made the generic. It should be the technology and the system all under the same technology arm. There's a research development, strategy planning, deploying operations, very traditional ways. But in the recent years, the system integration in a multi-vendor environment become more and more important. This is talking about when you have multiple vendors solution put together to create that end-to-end service. You couldn't rely on any single vendor to provide that end-to-end service integration. You cannot rely on single vendor to provide that service KPIs, the service quality measurement and the data analysis as what you like to be. Because every single vendor only look after a piece of that overall chain. The company will have to come up the resources to run the system integration, to be responsible for the end-to-end service quality. This is in a multi-vendor environment become more visible function and is fairly new. It's not only talking about understand the end-to-end system, understand the interface between the different boxes. They also include how you can run automation. You can leverage the data analytics to do it. For example, if you have 5 boxes in your network come from 5 different vendors, to make 5 boxes testing together is going to be a nightmare. Just think about the number of the coordination you have to run if you really want to run it manually. You have to get all the people together, run some case, run analysis together, and come back with some kind of a result. If you can run the automation, you can run the automated testing, you can run automated analysis, then you don't need all the people to be there in order to finish this end-to-end testing. You can leverage the system, you can leverage the tools to finish automation to get the efficiency much higher. Especially when you have multiple, like more than 2 vendors together, usually the menu, it becomes very troublesome. You have to rely on automation in order to make it work, and leverage data analytics to identify any of the service issues, to find issues even before it becomes visible. Agile and DevOps, it just become the recent years, the new approach as how you can deliver your products, start from the MVP and in a multiple iteration to constantly improving it and constantly develop it. And of course, there's also the business and the corporate functions as we discussed earlier. I'll just quickly skip those. Let's do a quick recap of what we discussed today. We started with a technology product, using mobile service as an example to see other than technology, the product marketing, the business support system, the sales and the sales channels, also the customer experience, all together to create one product. We did a deep dive into the product and marketing to see how a technology is transformed into the market and into the final customer's hands. We analyzed a typical technology organization structure to see some of the newly surfaced job opportunities. For example, the 5G and Internet of Things, they created a huge opportunity for the telecom vendors and telecom service providers to work with the various industry in the vertical markets. Data analytics and machine learning also created opportunities for the telecom to have the data-based decision making for the various product and services for the years to come. We're going to have a Q&A session. Just want to leave something for you to consider before the Q&A session. To consider a business case for 5G edge computing to support an augmented reality use case. We all know what augmented reality is, and 5G edge computing is to push the computing towards the edge, getting closer to the applications. In this case, we reduce the latency significantly. I'd like you to consider the 7 components of the business case and really think about all the potential benefits, direct or indirect, to help a strong business case. Please feel free to add any other components to help you sell the story and make any assumptions as necessary. Please keep in mind, be informative, but being concise. I'm looking for a story rather than a technical solution. Have fun. I'll talk to you in the Q&A session.